This sounds like relationship advice at first, but it is really about the fear of being seen wanting something.
You think your dad needed more wisdom?
So you click pause. Why do you click pause? I hear this often that people that watch the show, they click pause when I ask a question because they ask it of themselves or their friends or their family, and then they have a conversation. So me and the team, we worked for over 2 years to do over 70 questions here with a die and some QR codes where I pop up. But the point was to take the conversation outside the white studio. You know, we're blessed to have these conversations, but what if we want these conversations to go to different homes and different friend groups and colleague groups and really have intimate, deep, strong conversations that maybe you've never had before? So that's why we created this game, and it's had very good feedback. People love it, and I hope you love it too. Try it out and let us know. The website is there, the link is in the caption. Enjoy it and let us know.
Oh yeah. He was, listen, first of all, when I look at what he did and where he came from, see, this was another thing. I went digging into his past. My father, his father, worked on a chain gang in deep down in Georgia, where he was in prison and they work you all day, where you're working building roads and the whole thing. And he used to have to be on the school bus and drive past his father every day working on a chain gang and was quiet because he didn't want the other kids to know. Changes you. He was going through all kinds of stuff. And what happened was, as he grew up, as he started getting it, his father died when he was 19. And so he didn't have an example. And so he started to drink. And that was his escape.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that, and I'm not giving him an excuse. I'm not saying that, but I started to understand what he thought. And he moved up to Flint, Michigan, got a job, and he thought, that's it. I'm doing good. And everything in his life told him, you got to control these women. You got to do this. And if your wife's not happy, what's wrong with her? But we know more now.
Mm.
You know what I mean? We know more now. Back then, it was like, hey, get her in control. Back then, you know what happened? And this was crazy. The police used to come. The police used to come to our house, and she'd be on the floor, and she'd be bleeding and whatever, and they'd be like, hey, don't hit her anymore. And they would leave. The police didn't see anything wrong with that. That's the era. They didn't tell him he was wrong. They just said, you might not want to hit her so much.
Mm.
I was like, wow. But now we look at that like, hey, no, we know
Mhm.
more now. You know what I mean? If you know more, you can do more. But he was doing the best with what he had. The whole world was doing the best with what they had. To me, it's like, hey man, yeah, you know, the difference is record players or Spotify. You know what I mean? Now we can play 10,000 songs like that. Back then you had one album and you would play it all day. You know, I mean, you can do better now.
Mhm.
We have more choices now, you
Yes.
know? So
Mm. How was your relationship with your parents growing up, mom and dad?
my mom, you know, like I said, with her being very religious, it was hard. It was hard because I wanted to do movies. And I always saw. Now, I want to tell you this: I was not an actor.
Mm.
I wanted to get behind the scenes. I wanted to create. First time I saw Star Wars, I said, "Oh my God!" I wanted to create. I was an artist, painting,
Mm.
left-handed, right brain, painting, drawing. I had an art scholarship before I had a football scholarship. I've just started to put a lot of my art on my Instagram
Mm.
lately, and people have been reacting like, "What? You did this?" You know, but that's what I was known for.
Mm.
Um, and when I would get cut from football teams, I would go back in the locker room and I would ask the players if they wanted their portraits painted. And they would go, "Really?" And then I would show them my portfolio and they would go, "Whoa, you're good." And I would get money to do that.
Nice.
But I always had this ability. Like, I mean, it was something that I could really escape, and I was gonna use it for movies, like do movie posters and all this stuff. And when I retired and moved out to LA, I was trying to get behind the scenes, and a friend of mine invited me to an audition, and I ended up getting the audition, and I didn't know acting would be it.
Mm.
Now, my mother, by the way, loved the fact that I was an artist, but she felt like being in movies and things was too worldly, so it was a real problem. And I could dance, I was having fun, and she was like, "Oh, you can't do that." And so it was hard. I would sneak away, and and this thing, I would sneak and go to dances, and we'd be break dancing. It wouldn't be dancing with girls. We spinning on the floor, and I would feel guilty
Mm.
because I knew my mother didn't want me out there. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things, you go home and you know you're not telling the truth because it's still a lie, even though a lot of people go, "That's not wrong," but it was wrong if you're lying about it. But I couldn't be honest. So, you know what I mean? So it was a really,
Mm.
and then my mother, she was just like, "You're not dating because I don't want you to get any women pregnant." And I was like, whatever. And so it was a really, like, she was hard, man, very, very hard. Now,
Mm.
I look at this other way.
Mm.
Flint, Michigan was going under. Drugs, people getting killed. The movie New Jack City, that was like our city. I mean, young people running around with guns and Uzis and drug dealers and gang members and craziness. The fact that my mother was so strict saved my life. You see what I mean? Like I can complain and go, "Oh man, see, she never let me do anything." But if I would have been out there in the street and got shot, you know what I mean? But I never was
Mm.
because she was very protective. And I look at these things like I needed that.
Silver lining.
You see? It's kind of like these things, when you ask me who I am, these things made me who I was. Now it was hard. Everything has good and bad to it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But in my father, he was just very, very hands off. He was
Mm.
like, go work. He would go to work. He was two people. He was a work guy. He always worked, which was great. And then after work, he would go drink. And he would come home, he'd be a whole nother person.
Mm.
And that was the guy we didn't like. I always liked my work dad because he was very, very, okay, I'm going to work. It's like, hey, okay. And then when he came home, oh, he was mad, he was drunk, he was sad, he would sit there and cry. And I was like, oh, so that was different.
Mm.
Um, so that was my thing. And so that made my desire to leave my home very, very imminent. Like I wanted to get out
Mm.
very, very early. So I was probably 15 saying, they're already planning, when am I leaving? When am I getting out of here? And so I used football to get me out. It was wild because I never really was an athlete. My father hated sports.
Oh.
It's really strange.
Mm.
That is what makes the moment useful. It asks whether looking unbothered is worth what it costs. Leave your take in the comments and like and subscribe for more clips like this.